Welcome to the Childcare Genius Podcast, the world's leading authority on childcare marketing, mindset, expansion, and profitability. Each episode will feature interviews with the brightest minds in the childcare industry to guide you into becoming a smarter business leader. Our hosts have opened 10 schools while raising 5 children. They are certified business coaches and are the top-selling childcare business book authors of all time. This episode is sponsored by Childcare Genius Marketing. Let Childcare Genius Marketing help you get fully enrolled and fully staffed. Visit childcaregenius.com for more details. Let's welcome to the Childcare Genius Podcast our hosts, Brian and Carol Dupre.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Childcare Genius Podcast. My name is Sindye Alexander. I am filling in for Brian Dupre, who is out this week, and I have an amazing guest with me here today. Her name is Latisha Moore. She has a new adventure, childcare centers in North Carolina, licensed for 240 children. It's over 15 years experience in childcare. We've been friends for several years. She's been a previous guest on the podcast. If you want to learn more about Latisha, go back and find episode 184, and you can learn more about Latisha. But we're going to have a quick conversation here about her journey in childcare and some of the things that she's doing that's working really well. Latisha, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Sindye, so much for having me. Good to see you again.
Yeah, good to see you. So I know that you have been a guest before. You are a longtime veteran and leader in early childcare. And so for the listeners who may not have heard that episode, can you just give us a little bit of an introduction of yourself and your journey into childcare? Anything you'd like to include, just how you got started and your passion behind what you do?
Okay, yes, ma'am. So once again, my name is Latisha Moore. I am from Washington, North Carolina, and I started in childcare in July of 2010. So my journey began because I was a mental health provider. And in that mental health time, I worked for Tideland Mental Health, enjoyed the job. I worked with juveniles and adults that had substance abuse and or mental health issues. So did that for some years, and eventually the pendulum started swinging. Things were beginning to change in the world, and I knew that I could not stay at Tideland if the pendulum just swung all the way out. I didn't want to do some of the things that they were asking us to do, so I began to look for other opportunities. The biggest driver for me was insurance. I had to have insurance. So I ended up working as a probation officer with juveniles that actually had substance abuse and or mental health issues, and it was just the same thing. I was back in the same world, so I really, really, really enjoyed that. Went from there to adult probation. And from adult probation, I ended up meeting one of my coworkers actually who was doing some part-time work. And the part-time work that they were doing was mental health. So I'm like, okay, let me try that. Started doing some part-time work and began to make more in my part-time job than I was on my full-time job. So I left probation, worked at that job for a few years, and decided that one of my heart's dreams was to open a residential facility for at-risk girls. I had some issues in my past, and I always wanted to be able to give back. And that job led to the opportunity to do that. And I opened the first female facility in Beaufort County for at-risk youth. It was called Destiny Home of Beaufort County. Ran that for over 6 years. Loved it. And once again, here comes the pendulum swinging again. And throughout that time, I started another organization helping children and families that had substance abuse and mental health issues in the community. And what I started seeing was a lot of children. There were a lot of children. We were receiving calls from the schools, behaviors, all the things. And as the pendulum started swinging, it got me interested in trying to figure out, why are all these children coming to me? Like, what's happening? Why is a 3-year-old, a 5-year-old throwing chairs in the school? So I started learning more about early childhood. And from there, it led me to childcare, wanting to, own my own childcare. So, and still wanting to give back to the community. And oddly enough, Sindye, one of my assignments was to look for violations in North Carolina. And because my last name is Moore, I got the latter part of the alphabet. And I was assigned to a center who had violations and a revocation pending. And I had to reach out and find out why. So I did that to turn in my report. And something just said one day, hey, call them and see if they want to sell their childcare center. The worst they can say is no. I picked the phone up, dialed the number, and basically asked, hey, told the same story, just wanted to know if you would be interested in selling your center. And believe it or not, they said yes. So that's how I got my first childcare center, and it was licensed for 34. Stayed there for some years and wanted to expand. And the opportunity just fell into my lap to purchase my second childcare center, which we're licensed for 240. So that's how I got here.
What an amazing story, Latisha. And you know what really hits me is that, how you started, you were working with adults and, and young people, and all the way back to the early childhood years. And really the early childhood years is where you can head off some of those behavior issues, some of those mental health issues. I mean, I know some things people are born with it and, predispositions, but we all know that, so much development happens in those first few years of life, the most important time. And so maybe you can prevent some issues with the connections that you make with children before they ever get to, where you started off working. I love
Yes.
that story. And did you know that we have in common? We also used to have a home for teenage girls, my husband and I, for about 4 years. It was kind of like a foster home. We don't have to go, all into it, but we had 15 girls over those 4 years. And yeah, we were helping troubled youth. And so I'm like, she also did the home.
Yeah, I really that's a heart, just a heart
Uh-huh.
passion for me because I was a high school dropout, teenage mom. So,
Wow.
all those
Wow.
things, so, just really looking at that, wanting to pour back into the girls. And so that's just a passion. And if the opportunity presents itself again, I could see myself doing it again. But yeah.
Oh, I love that story. I love it. What a success story, and a story of, overcoming
Yeah.
and giving back and just pouring into people. And that's the type of person you are. I've known you for several years, and you just exude this integrity and giving. It just comes out, in almost everything that you say. All of the jobs that you talked about, all about helping people.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
love that. Helping them grow, even if it wasn't fun for them, with the probation.
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am. Pretty
Yeah.
interesting times. Pretty interesting times.
Yes.
Yes.
Interesting.
Interesting,
Oh,
Cindy. I will share this.
uh-huh.
The first child that I ever had to send to juvenile, lock up, his
Uh-huh.
mother worked for me for years. His mother worked for me. And we had his nieces, nephews, and aunt that would work for me. And now we currently have two of his nieces that are still enrolled. So that I mean,
Making lasting impacts for families.
yes,
Love
yes,
that. Love
yes.
that. So speaking of lasting impact, you have been in childcare for 15 plus years. And most small businesses, they don't last more than a few. So you have found a way, to make this grow, to have success with it. What do you think is, the one thing that parents say that they love most about your center or your school? Like, what are you doing that's different that really gets parents to buy in and want to enroll with you?
Okay. Well, one of the things that is part of our foundation is faith. Everything that we do is grounded in faith. When you walk into our center, there is gospel music that's playing. There are scriptures throughout our center. If a child ever says that they had some oil, they received some oil. We're just a giving family. One of the things that our families really, really love about us, well, in addition to our faith, is the fact that we treat the entire family. We don't just stop with the child. We look at a holistic approach. And that's part of our vision and mission because we understand that we are providing a service. However, we have to serve the entire family. And we're not just going to come in and have you drop Johnny off. We want to know, hey, how are you? What is it that we can do to help you? So we go above and beyond just the child care services that we provide to the children. We have that holistic approach. So I think that at the end of the day, it is because these families that we serve, they understand that yes, this is a business, but we are concerned about your overall well-being. What can we do to serve you? And so we are a servant. We have a servant mentality for all the children and families that we serve. So I think outside of all the bells and whistles and all the things, we serve the people that are enrolled in our program. We really serve them from a pure and genuine place.
I really love that, because what you've just talked about really illustrates some of the key things that we, try to teach when we work with childcare business owners. When it comes to, attracting your ideal families, you have to be really dialed into your vision and your mission and your core values. Number one, and you just told me you do that through the faith that you incorporate into your program, because that's really, really important to you. And you describe situations where, that's carried out in the daily practices of what you do, and you embrace the whole family. So you're making those connections. So, living by your mission, your core values, and making connections, building relationships with people, I think is one of the key points to attract those families to you that are going to stay loyal, that are going to stay dialed in, that are going to be like so proud to be a part of your school, because they identify that you have similar missions, similar core values for the children. And when
Yeah.
you're working with children, it's not the same as selling screwdrivers or batteries, or, you know what I mean? This is like the most important thing in a parent's family's life, is the children. And so you've really, really dialed into that. Another thing that you mentioned to me earlier today, I wanted you to expound on this a little bit more. You were talking about your background in mental health and how you've kind of translated that into helping, some of the children and families in your care. So talk a little bit more about what that means.
Okay. So in mental health, one of the things that I did was wrote PCPs, were person-centered plans. So we dealt with adults and children that maybe had IEPs, individual education plans, the family plans, all the things. The children may have had Axis 1 and Axis 2 diagnosis, Axis 2 being maybe autism, some of the developmental delays, Axis 1 being maybe the oppositional defiant, ADHD, that type thing, all the way up to, schizophrenia, like all the things, all the mental health diagnosis. And so with that, I learned, strategies to be able to work with the families that I was actually serving during the mental health. So when you take that into childcare and you're looking and you're seeing all of the behaviors and the things that these children today are experiencing, we're post-COVID, but yet that was still a very traumatic event. And so we're seeing an increase of behaviors, an increase of autism, whatever that means on the spectrum. We're seeing a lot of that. So what we've been able to do is to look at these children and meet them where they are. And so where you may have a traditional childcare center that says, you know what, we can't deal with that because their behavior is a little bit more than what our people are trained for, right? Because I have that background, I am able to go in and provide the tools, provide the strategies to my staff to be able to meet that child where they are, to be able to, if we can't do it all, to tap into resources to make sure that we are getting them hooked up with the services that they need and provide a space for these resources to actually come in, whether that's therapy, occupational, physical, speech, whatever it may be, whatever service that child needs, we're able to provide that. And because of the training that I have, we're not shunning from that. We're welcoming that and understanding, yes, this is a symptom, but what's the root cause? Why is this child acting this way? So we can have all the bells and whistles, all the programs, all the communication apps, and all the things. But if Johnny is hungry, if he didn't sleep well last night, it doesn't matter what we have, those behaviors are going to present themselves. And if there's anything underlying, it's going to exacerbate that situation. So we're able to go in and target and, identify what that looks like and be able to provide treatment plans for the children that we serve. What does that look like? When we see Johnny that may be getting, hyper upset, he's not being able to calm down, he can go for a walk. There are little things that he can jump and do. He can exercise. We're going to talk to him, drawing, just all the things that take time. We make sure we have the time to do in the course of our day.
And I love, how you brought in how you can train your staff, how you can give your staff strategies.
Mhm.
because I know that is something that can kind of overwhelm teachers when they have a child or a set of children in their care. Well, they love the children, they want to make a difference, they want to do right. Sometimes it can be draining and overwhelming, and then you just kind of run out of spoons, if you will. You know what I mean? If you've ever heard that phrase, you just that phrase, you don't have any more spoons to give. They don't have any more energy to give to this situation. And when you can come in and provide fresh eyes and give them some tools, like here's a new strategy that might work, or here's something that I've learned because of your unique training, I'm sure that it helps your staff feel more supported.
Yeah, I hope so. And,
Yeah.
them being able to see the results of the
Mm-hmm.
children that maybe have come from other childcare centers and
Mm-hmm.
haven't been successful, but yet now, they see this child. It's like, is this the same child? Absolutely. Now, our whole center is not like that, but at the same time,
Right.
we still pour into those children. And I'm just really excited about the progress that we have seen children make within our center.
Yeah, and every center I'm sure has one or two children that require a little bit of extra love
Mhm.
and care and energy in order to help them be successful. One thing I loved that you mentioned, because I also used to participate, like with the local school district would provide services for children that we would identify that might need help. So can you talk about like how a center could connect with outside resources if they're finding themselves with a child that might need a little bit of extra guidance?
Absolutely. I feel that the first thing to do is be very observant. We take anecdotal notes. So you want to
Mhm.
make sure that you're documenting what you see that child do, and then go ahead and reach out, pick up the phone, call your local school district and ask who is the resource for your children. If this child is displaying, aggressive behaviors, what resource do you have? How can we do this? And start connecting with your schools. Reach out to your Department of Social Services and ask the question, because there are just so many services available that are able to help the children. You can also reach out to your CDSAs, your, First Starts, local mental health agencies. Get out there and find the resources that are available for the children. Your autism societies, just all the places. It's about taking the effort to make the connections. Occupational therapist organizations, ABA therapy organizations, just reaching out and saying, hey, this is what we have. What can we do? What do you have? How can you help us? Quiet mouths do not get fed. So you have to ask the questions.
Yeah, and a lot of times, even if one agency does not have resources, they usually know who does, or like how to connect you to the right place, depending on your unique situation. Every child is different, and I've had a few unique ones that I'm sure other people haven't had, and vice versa. So just reach out. Now, you mentioned to me earlier about the funding that you got to help with some of this. Do you have any little tidbits about that?
Okay, well, I am learning here in North Carolina that there are additional funding streams that you're able to use when a child is identified as having an IEP, IFSP, any identified disability. There are funds through our local Department of Social Services, Department of Health and Human Services, in which you're able to reach out for services for those children. If those children have Medicaid, some of the TANF dollars that are throughout all the different states. I'm not sure what they're called in, other states, but in North Carolina, part of them are TANF. You're able to receive additional services for the child. Here we have a developmental day program. And I did not realize that any individual in North Carolina can actually reach these same funding sources if the child is identified, even though your facility is not classified as a developmental day program. Now, there's
Mhm.
stipulations that you have to go through, but at the same time, the funding is available. And what does that funding look like? Sometimes it can look like an additional person coming into the classroom to be able to assist with that child. That may not seem like a lot, but if you're having a child with severe behaviors, or not even severe behaviors, just behaviors that may need a little extra support, having a staff come in, even if it's just for a few hours a day, to be able to work with that child that your organization does not have to pay for, benefits the child, number one, but it also benefits the other children. And that in turn benefits your staff. So, yes, ma'am.
Yeah. And another thing, that you talked about earlier was how you like really want to serve the whole family.
Mhm.
You're always wanting to serve the whole family. And you shared with me a few things that you do to really interact with the community and serve families in a bigger way. And so I want to hear a little bit more about the ways that you make connections with family, maybe some of the special things that you do at your center that really makes those connections and really, does some community outreach as well.
Okay. Well, I love to give back. I'm a giver at heart. So one thing that we did, everybody is getting off of work. You're ready. You got errands. I don't know what you're doing. So hey, you're hungry. So what can I do? Everybody got pizza and a drink to go home. No one knew it. If you had one child, you got one pizza and one 2 liter soda. If you had two or more children, you got three pizzas and two sodas. So you're coming in, hot, fresh pizzas, just going home.
Pizza?
Pizzas, the whole pie.
You just
Pizza.
surprised all your
Yes,
families with pizza.
every family that came in to pick up their children went home with pizza and drinks, and those that we transport, their pizzas was given to them when they got off the bus. So just something random that we do just out of the box. So we did that. And it's still a hit. So
Huh?
the parents enjoy that. We have given massive Christmas parties. We hold those. The last one that we had, there was over 500 people there, not just for our families, but also for the community. We had full course meal, gave away lots of prizes, toys. Every child left with a bag, and some of them had cash in it, all toys, food, all the things. Everyone, it's just amazing. It's just things that we really, really love in this spirit of just giving back. We hosted a parent night, which we had over 200 people at our parent night. We rented out the local civic center and we just ate, fellowshipped, rewarded parents for their loyalty that had been there. Some walked away with TV, some walked away with, crisp $100 bills. I have the little spin thing, and we would just give out the little tickets and you get up there and spin. And it's just giving back. It's making that connection. Open houses. We just had an open house. Boots on the ground is really popular, so that's what we did. We enrolled families from that. Our current families had the opportunity everybody got one ticket that came in. But if you bought a guest, you got a ticket for each additional guest that you bought. So that puts you in a drawing to receive, I think it was a 51-inch television. You could win $200. There were three $100 gift cards. I mean, just so much stuff that we did. Fun. It was called the Passport to Adventure. So you had to go to each class to get your passport stamped, and that gave you another ticket. We did an
Oh,
open
that's
house at
like
the
a
school.
prearranged
Yes,
tour for all the visitors have to
ex
tour if
you
they want to
have
be
to.
entered in the raffle, you have to tour. That's
Yes,
brilliant.
you have to tour. We went out to our local school. We did an open, we participated in their open house, gave
Yeah.
away food, little prizes and little trinkets. And from that, we enrolled two children. So I think that just really getting out and letting everyone know that we're here, being visible, this is who we are. We just like to do it. So yeah.
So what I love what you shared about that is that like we talk about digital marketing and like everybody's online, everybody's on their phones, and everybody's it's all done through screens and computers. And you're talking about ways that you really went out and actually touched people by either participating in other people's events
Mhm.
in the community or inviting them into your own space or your own event that you hosted at the civic center or whatever. You're actually getting your staff and your families to interact with each other and with you and give them a little taste of what it's like to work with you. So that is really, really key in building relationships, making connections, and getting them to trust you with their children.
Yes.
So speaking of, marketing, you've been doing a lot of community marketing. Is there anything special that you're doing, like with your messaging or your website, your social media, that you feel is working well for you when it comes to attracting children or family?
Honestly, I still feel that it's just old fashioned, word of mouth, and you're getting out there and people are seeing and knowing who you are. But anything special, I would just say that we're really in the community. We're going, doing muffin runs, dropping things off, your flyers here, and just really letting our parents know about our referral program, really pushing that. So if a family enrolls based off of your referral, then they would receive $200 once that family has been enrolled for at least 30 days. It's just really just getting out there. I don't really think that we are doing anything different per se, but I think it's just the volume and just really trying to ramp up those needs, excuse me, not the needs, but the methods, if you will, so that we
Right.
can continue to keep our enrollment coming, and just being very focused and driven on that, and responding when we do have
Mm.
inquiries. I will tell you that sometimes I'll randomly go live in my center with different little activities that the children are doing. What was it? National Hispanic Heritage Month. The teachers were
Mhm.
in there and they were making flags. And it was just the cutest little thing. The children were really engaged on what they were doing, found some cute little music, posted the video, and that got us a referral from someone that had seen what we were doing. So once again, just being like really visible, that I think that's working, and something that we're definitely going to rev up out here.
Well, that's something I talk about all the time is the fact that, yes, you need to be, online. People need to be seeing your logo and seeing your story, and they need to see that online. But if they don't have anybody who's like familiar with you, that trust, that authority, that community involvement isn't present in your community, they're still going to be leery of you, or more leery, until they come in and visit. So that word of mouth and those community touches are so important. And it sounds like you've really kind of dialed that in, because you're just making yourself more trustworthy by the more people you touch, and the more people that have heard of you or had an experience with you, they have something to say. Hopefully that's positive. So I feel like you're doing that right, because that trust building is so important, and your reputation is so important. You could spend all the money in the world in advertising, but if your reputation is non-existent or questionable,
Yes.
it'll be harder to win a family over. So I love that. So, looking back on your years, we did talk about you being in the industry, childcare specific for, 15 years, but working with children and families for like your whole life. What is something that you wish you would have known when you started your center? Like, what is one of the biggest lessons that you've learned or gleaned through your experience running a childcare center that you
Mhm.
wish you would have known at the start?
I really wish that I would have known more about, from a financial point, tax
Hmm.
strategies,
Hmm.
because the larger you grow, the larger your tax bills grow. So I wish I would have known more about ways to eradicate taxes. I think that would have been very beneficial for me in the very beginning, starting yourself outright, even though you're small, just making sure that you're knowing exactly what you're doing, and hiring somebody who knows what
Hiring
they're
somebody.
doing.
Yeah, I made that
Hiring
mistake too.
somebody, yes,
We get
hiring
into it for the
somebody.
passion, and then we're like, oh no, we have to follow all the business and legal
Yes, yes,
requirements. Yes,
yes.
yes.
Make sure that you're hiring someone who's
Uh-huh.
not just talking to you about paying your taxes, right? Because we're gonna
Mhm.
pay them, but how can we pay what we have to pay and not a dime more? What do we need to
Mhm.
do to limit our tax liability? I think that's the biggest one. And then the second one I would say is starting with systems. Even though my center was licensed for 34, I feel like small business kind of puts your mind thinking small. And so we don't play big because we're a small business. But you know
Yeah.
what? Business is business. So if I had the systems in the beginning, then it would have made life a lot easier when I did begin to grow even the more.
Yeah, I would second that, because it's kind of funny because my first center was licensed for 34.
Oh, wow.
And so it's like, I did we? Hmm. don't
Right,
know.
Cindy. Okay.
I know, but yeah, so I mean, I did home childcare for, like 20 years, 15 years. I
Mhm.
don't know how long. It was a long time. And then, I opened my first commercial center, was licensed for 34. And, I had my first team of teachers and, I thought I knew everything. And it wasn't until I was really trying to start, training these teachers. I realized I had to get it all out of my head. I had to get it out into a system that everybody followed it the same way. Had no idea how one person doing one job wrong or differently than a different person thinks it should be done would like cause issues with the team, just silly little things. And so having those systems really, it gets it out of your head. It makes you able to be able to hold them accountable, makes you to be able to train everybody the same way. I mean, there's so many benefits to getting those systems down. You can delegate more, you can hold them accountable better. So I second that. I think both of those are very, very good little tidbits on if you haven't figured these things out, definitely take a look at them because
I got one more,
you
Cindy.
yes, go ahead.
Get help from the start. Get help from the start. You don't know what you don't know. Now,
Oh,
granted, I had already ran businesses before coming in, from the mental health world, completely different ball game, but seeking and getting help and support from individuals who have done what you've done and they have exceeded. They're doing what you're doing. Maybe they've
mhm.
done what you've done, or you want to do what they're currently doing. So you can
Yeah.
have some mentorship to be able to help you navigate where you're going. I think that has been, for me, I know that's been beneficial. I've learned a lot through the relationships. I mean, that's how I met you. I mean, I've learned,
Yeah.
yeah, a lot.
I would second that. I think coaching, I mean, I got into this industry because I was a childcare owner
Mhm.
who, did get involved with coaching with a couple of different, coaching organizations. And those coaches helped me to grow my business so much faster. I learned what I was, doing wrong or where my gaps were, or, I was able to have conversations with this, new network of people who were in my boat, but in different areas. And some of them have already experienced the issues that I was going through and could give advice and you could bounce ideas off of and feel supported. So I love that. And you're a part of Childcare Genius University now.
Yes.
So, we've gotten to, reconnect through that. So I'm so thankful, for all of the different places that we've connected, but I'm so thankful to have you, reconnected with us here at Childcare Genius University. Is there anything special that you feel like you've learned or you support that you've received through working with us that has helped your business grow?
I'm going to say that Miss Kim's dashboard is really
Mhm.
helping me learn more about my numbers, because I will say that that was a weak point for me in understanding the numbers, not understanding per se the numbers, but making sure that you have targets and benchmarks and goals that you're setting, because money is not my motivator. And because it's not, and it's never been, we have to have it. But that just wasn't my focus. And I believe that God has truly blessed me. I know He's truly blessed me in all the things that I have done throughout the course of my time in childcare and just in my life. So I know God has blessed me tremendously in that area. But because money was not and is not my motivator, some of those things were blind to me, right? They were not my
Yeah.
focus. And I think working in this light has allowed me to know that even though money may not be the driver in what I'm doing, you still need to know your numbers and you need to
Mhm.
make the best use of all the tools that you have. So I'm going to say that that has been really a big positive for me in this. Yes.
Yeah, I would agree because sometimes we, what is hard or less interesting to us, we tend to ignore,
Yes.
in the or like set aside in the daily, struggle and daily grind of just, getting everything done and, all of the things on our plate. And so it can be neglected. So you can't manage what you don't measure. And when you're having those dashboards and those spreadsheets, you're always, on a weekly cadence or, whatever your cycle is looking at your numbers and making sure that you're tracking and that you're on target to hit your goals because you're right. If we don't have the money, we can't perform the service that is the motivator, the helping of the families, the giving back to the children, the making the difference in people's lives, it can't happen without the money. So you do have to watch that. So thank you. And I'm sure Miss Kim will be so thrilled to hear that she's made such a difference for you.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
appreciate that. Well, let's close with this. I know you did talk about a couple of things that you wish that you had known when you started, but now that you're here, I mean, you're almost 2 decades in, right? What little piece of advice would you give to somebody who is, struggling to figure out their next step, or to, just to button up those systems, or, to have their business feel like it's successful? They're grinding away, but maybe need that little bit of to get over a struggle or a hurdle. What advice could you give to somebody like that?
Okay, so first and foremost, I am a person of faith. So I'm going to tell that person to, stop, take some time and pray. Just get still for a moment and go back to the very beginning. Go back to why. What led you to childcare? Why are you doing what you're doing? Get very, 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 very clear on your why. And then develop your vision. Where do you want to go? Where do you see yourself at, the next 12 months, next 5 years down the road? Get very clear on what you want. And then stop asking how. This has been a very big lesson for me. Stop asking how it can get done, but figure out who you need to help you get it done. When you identify those things, go find your who's, whether that's mentorship, whether that's hiring people, whether that's virtual assistants, whatever that is, who becomes the driving force behind how you're going to achieve your vision. And I think that is so crucial for me, has been just it has been, because clarity.
I would agree with that. Yeah, I would totally agree. Getting the who, because a lot of times we get boxed in thinking, how am I going to do it? Because you don't have the capacity to do it all yourself, but our mind somehow is closed to the possibilities. If you had more people, or if you had, partners, or even somebody just to give you advice or be a cheerleader that you can confide in, that who is going to support you, and then how are they going to support you? And they're gonna do that. And you do really need a tribe. You need a team to
Yeah,
move something this big forward.
you do. Take the time to stop, listen, pray, get that vision, move forward on it. And you know what? Don't stop. Don't stop. You're gonna have your ups and downs. Things are gonna, be challenging here and there. But if you know your why, it's gonna keep you going. It's gonna keep you going on those hard days. And knowing who is on your team, those who's, when you identify them, those who's are gonna help you make your money. You don't make any money in childcare. I beg to differ. So
Yeah. Yeah.
find who
Uh-huh.
and be clear. Seek the help.
Mhm.
Get in the rooms, because the conversation is different in different rooms. Get in the rooms and just,
That is so true. I love how you brought it back to people again. It's like everything that we do is about making connections with people, and the right people for the right occasions. And to grow your business, you need some business mentors, or some people that support you in helping you carry out your dream or your goal. So all of that is so important and so true. Latisha, thank you so much for being here with us today. Do you have any parting words before we sign off?
just want to thank you first and foremost,
Uh,
thinking of me to do this. I'm really honored, humbled, just to be here. And I'm hopeful that something that I've said can encourage someone, to not give up on their dream and to go for it. But regardless of what you do, faith without works is dead. You got to do the work. So in everything that you learn, you have to put in the effort. And childcare, it is so worth it to sit back and see the impact that you have made on the families and the children that you serve. Years later, when they come back, little babies, but now they're driving to pick up their sibling. it makes you feel good. It's worth it.
Wow. I agree. I so agree with you. Thank you so much for being here. And for all of our listeners here today, if you are struggling at all in childcare, I encourage you to reach out to us here at Childcare Genius. We have our university coaching program. We have done for you marketing services. We've got all kinds of free resources on our website. The podcast comes out sometimes a couple times a week. So we're always trying to bring the latest and greatest and inspirational stories to you. We have strategies. We can do a free coaching call with you. If you just want to explore what we have to offer or need some help troubleshooting a problem, please don't hesitate to reach out to us here at Childcare Genius. And again, Latisha, thank you so much for being here today. And to the listeners, subscribe. We'll see you back here on the next episode. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Childcare Genius podcast. If you enjoyed the show, please do us a favor and hit the subscribe button so you don't miss a future episode. Don't forget to visit our website at childcaregenius.com to see a list of services we offer to help grow your childcare business. Until next time, thank you for being a part of the Childcare Genius community.